Greetings guys, gals and non-binary pals, and welcome back to another video. I hope that you are well and I hope that you are fighting because there is a lot to be fighting for. As usual, there will be a link in the description to the page of my website with a bunch of petitions, donations, emails to send to MPs, etc, etc. So a couple of days ago, I asked you on Instagram what you wanted to see from me, what video you wanted me to do, what you wanted me to talk about, and someone recommended to me this person's Instagram, which led me to their TikTok. And when I tell you it's a bit of a mind muddle, I would be... That would be an understatement. That would be a massive, massive understatement. I went through this woman's TikTok for 5 hours. I was sat here for 5 hours yesterday, scrolling through this TikTok, trying to figure it out, trying to understand what was going on. I have never been so baffled and confused in my life. I could not tell if it was satire or if it was genuine or what was going on. I also shared a lot with Kat. Kat also didn't really know what was going on. And so I thought I had to sit down and I had to make a video about it because I want to see if you can make sense of it. I want to see if we can have this discussion, see if I can figure it out, sort of say where I stand with this, what I think. And there's also some important things to talk about in this as well. So basically, this is a woman named Isabella Riley USA, and she is a conservative woman who posts TikToks about being conservative or being anti-left, anti-liberal or whatever. But sometimes it just gets really confusing, and you'll understand what I mean when we get into it, I promise. But yeah, just know that I spent 5 hours yesterday going through this, trying to figure it out, and then I had to take a break. I was meant to film this yesterday, but I couldn't. My brain melted. It was a puddle. It was mush. I had to then lie in bed and just stare at the ceiling and try to heal for 3 hours. But before we get into it, I would like to draw attention to this little gay little rainbow pride Kiwi sitting right here behind me, okay? I talked about them in my last video, but I wanted to draw attention to them once again because they are now up and live on the Makeship website. I will put the link directly to this little guy in the description if you want to grab one for yourself. I have spent months sort of coming up with this and working with them to design something so perfect, but I love this little Kiwi more than anything in the entire world. I love it so much. It's so cute. It's so soft. I'm genuinely so excited and so happy with how it's come out. So I really hope that you all love them too. They're just a little me. We are twins. This is... And I don't have words other than it's I want to eat it. You know? I just want If you want to grab one of those, you can get one of them at makeship.com. It really means a lot to me. I'm really glad that you are loving them so far. I'm overwhelmed by the response they have gotten. I'm so glad that you love them and I hope you continue to love them. They are only available for 3 weeks. So from the time you're seeing this video, I think there is 19 days left. So you only have 19 days to go and grab one and then they are gone forever. So get in there fast because why would you not want one of these cute little... Anyway, they are going back here for now and for the rest of all time. Also, the YouTube algorithm has been being very mean to me recently because I took a little bit of a holiday mental health break. So if you want to engage with the video, give it a like, comment your favorite song, what you ate for breakfast, what you think of the video, something that would be very much appreciated, as well as hitting subscribe if you want to do that. Okay, now that I've got the little Kiwi bed promo out of the way, we can begin our journey into whatever the fuck this TikTok account is. All right. So as a sort of just opener as to who she is and sort of the things that she says, there is this TikTok.
Oh no, you are just terribly wrong. Listen, I'm just following the science. And what does science tell us? Science tells us that women are supposed to be homemakers, raise a family, serve their husband. Whereas men are supposed to be the providers, they make the money. Women are much happier at home in the kitchen than slaving away at some corporate office. Anyone who doesn't believe in traditional gender roles is a science denier. But enough of my talking, it's time for me to get back in the kitchen where I belong.
it sounds satirical, right? Like, that does not sound genuine at all. It sounds like she's making fun of the people who say this. It does. But then you remember that she's like a spokesperson for Praga U. But she's an ambassador for Praga U. But she is being genuine. But, like, she's not. This is tagged as satire. But I'm really confused as to what the satirical part is and what isn't, because these are the views she claims to hold. Yet, she's saying it in such a way that it's like, she clearly doesn't believe what she's saying and she's clearly making fun of it. So I'm already just a little bit, like, frazzled, and just like, what? I don't quite understand what your point is or where you stand. Then she says shit like this.
I'm actually very educated and knowledgeable on all things to do with politics and life, and I gained my education through mansplaining. Yes, I said mansplaining, you heard that right. The only credible education a woman can acquire is through listening to a man mansplain. If you're a woman and you don't have a degree from Mansplaining University, just shut up. Also, obviously, as a woman, my opinions are not that of my own, so that's just a given. So, like, tell me something I don't know.
And she sounds so sarcastic, right? Like, she can't be genuine. She can't be serious. These can't be beliefs that she actually holds. Because they're presented in a way that seems, like, satirical. They're over the top. They're making fun of it. You can tell by her tone. But then again, you go back to the fact that she is an ambassador for Praga U. She goes on television and she talks about conservative ideas and conservative morals. She wants to be a trad wife, a housewife. She wants to exist for her future husband. She wants to cook. She wants to clean. Or at least that's what she says. She says that's what she wants to do. She makes a ton of videos about how her place is the kitchen, and she knows that, and she loves that, and she wants to do that. And that's fine. Do what you want. I don't care. But then when she talks about it sometimes in, like, instances like this, it sounds so satirical. And she's saying shit like, everything I learn is from a man. All I need to know is from a man. Men teach me everything. All I need to do is listen to men, and then I learn and I grow. That's how I learn. Which wouldn't surprise me based on the fact that she is very anti-education, particularly public education, but we will get into that shortly. And she's just, I don't understand. I don't get it. I genuinely do not get it. Because then she makes videos like this one.
I don't hate my gender. What I hate is when people tell me that because of my gender, because I am a female, that I am oppressed and I can't succeed in life. I'm not oppressed and I'm no victim. And I don't see other women as oppressed or victims because I actually view them as equal to men. If you think other people in society at large are discriminating against you because you are a woman, prove them wrong by outperforming everyone around you, including the men. Because it's having drive and a strong work ethic that actually increases your chances of success. Not complaining about your perceived oppression.
Like, firstly, wrong take. Absolutely not true at all. But that aside, she's here saying that women should work hard. Women can work hard. Women can and should be equal to men or more successful than men, and they have the potential to be, and they should be. But then she also goes and says that men are superior and women should listen to men and learn from men, and we shouldn't work. We should be stay-at-home wives. We should live to serve our husbands. And I can't tell where she stands. She makes a lot of videos talking about being independent, being a woman, being successful, having your own thoughts and opinions and values. But then she makes a ton of contrasting videos about how we need to listen to men, that men's values and men's opinions are what we should be listening to, that women shouldn't be allowed to vote. We never should have been given the right to vote because we're too emotional and we vote for the liberals. We vote for Democrats, which is ruining the country because it's too emotional. So she literally makes videos saying women shouldn't be able to vote. But then she also makes videos saying like this shit where it's like, work hard, be better than men. I'm getting two very contrasting opinions from her. And both of them can sometimes sound satirical and sometimes sound dead serious. I cannot for the life of me tell where she stands. It is so confusing. The content matter of this TikTok of like oppression being perceived is obviously incorrect. I think that is a mentality, you know, like men do say that shit to women, right? It is that thing of like, if you're surrounded by conservatives, you are told that women are already equal. You don't really look that much further. If you are in a position of privilege, the thing with like misogyny and sexism and things like that, right, is it isn't just like men, women. There are a lot more layers to that. There are some women who are more privileged than some men. It's more when you're on an equal platform, if you have all of the same things, men are going to be higher than you. You know what I mean? And she's coming from a very privileged position. She is in a very privileged place in life. So for her personally, she is less oppressed than some men in the way that she defines oppression, if that makes sense. But she refuses to look past that. She refuses to see any form of sexism or anything like that because men struggle too, so therefore women aren't oppressed. Bad take, not how it works. But we're gonna move on to the next TikTok anyway, because there's some more stuff that we need to talk about. I was sat here, like I said, 4 hours yesterday trying to figure out where she actually stood and what her opinions actually were. When it comes to gender equality and what she thinks like a woman's role is, I have no idea what she thinks. The thing is I keep forgetting that she's an ambassador for PragueU. Like I keep forgetting that that's a thing that she does. So like part of me was really thinking, like there was a part of me like, maybe she is like infiltrating from the inside, you know what I mean? Like she's going in and sort of showing how ridiculous they sound and like appealing to conservative men and conservative people and being like, this is how fucking stupid you sound. But then I remember that she's a PragueU ambassador and that's definitely not actually what's happening. And I get very confused. You will see more of why I think that shortly. But for now, here's another confirmation of her fucking fucked up conservative viewpoints.
Have you been stopped for not wearing a mask while shopping in a store and someone asks, hey, show me your vaccine passport? Well, I have the solution to all of your problems. Well, if you wear this shirt, it says scan for my vaccine passport. All you have to do is scan this QR code and it takes you to a link of the Constitution. We need more people to speak up on these unconstitutional mandates, especially the mask mandates. And guess what? Only ugly people benefit from wearing masks. So us pretty people, we cannot keep wearing masks. So make sure you buy this shirt. I'll have a link for it in my bio. My code is Isabella. You'll get 10% off. And yeah, I hope you get it.
So funny. Such a fucking ridiculously hilarious product. That the fact that exists is so funny to me. It's awful, but it's so funny. It is somehow the most American thing ever. I don't know what else to tell you, man. Like, she has a whole thing where she, like, hates the left. She hates liberals. And that can feel kind of confusing because some of the views that she holds are, like, quite left. They're quite liberal. And it's really interesting because I don't think she knows that. I genuinely do not think that she knows the views that she holds are left or liberal because of what she's been told. And you will see what I'm talking about after this TikTok.
Oh, you care about the poor so much that you're willing to initiate violence upon your fellow American citizens to forcibly make them pay their hard-earned money to fund your causes. If you care about poor people, if you care about any of these causes, fund them yourself. You cannot morally take someone else's money that they have earned. That is theft. But of course, when theft is done through the government, it is legalized. Because as we know, it's only the government that's allowed to break the law as they are above the law, and that just makes a lot of sense. It seems very moral. Stealing and theft is okay as long as the government does it. Murdering and bombing millions of people, may I say brown people overseas, it's fine because it's the government and it's for American security and, patriotism. Also, God forbid a private citizen chooses to do drugs. You know what the punishment is? We're gonna lock a human being up in a cage for the rest of his or her life. That's so moral.
The tax thing aside, I'll circle back to that in a moment. Those are very, like, leftist liberal views, right? This is the shit that we talk about all the time. Like, being anti-military, like, wanting to end the war in the Middle East, and thinking that whole thing is, like, ridiculous and fucked up and definitely shouldn't be happening, should not have fucking started. We should not be fucking bombing people. The military should not be invading. This should not be happening. She's on that side, which the right typically do not have that take. And the way that she is anti-patriotism in terms of that, in terms of like being like, we have the strongest military, we have a ton of weapons, we can fucking bomb you. that's a view that the right generally hold, and she seems opposed to that, yet she somehow thinks that that's our viewpoint. And then she's also against people being punished for using drugs. She seems to be very against that. She doesn't think it's, like, moral at all to lock people up who have done drugs. She doesn't think that that should be a criminal offense. Doing drugs, you should not be punished for that. You should get help if you are abusing drugs and it is impacting your life. You should absolutely get help for that, but you shouldn't be punished for that. And, like, there are some states and places that are, like, making drugs more legal for, like, either decriminalizing or completely legalizing, like, recreational use and things like that. And that seems to be, like, something that she is for. And again, that's a very left-leaning, more liberal viewpoint. That is what the right is fighting against. The right votes against that. The right doesn't want that. But yet she thinks that that is a more conservative right-wing viewpoint. She thinks that we as the left and as liberals oppose that. She thinks that we think it's just that the Middle East is under fire. She thinks that we think that it's just that people go to jail for doing drugs. Her take is very anti-government. She has said that so many times. She is very anti-government and she is very anti-corporation. Her viewpoint is she wants to dismantle the government, and she wants a free market. But she wants it to be privately owned as opposed to owned by everyone. And that's where the difference between, like, her views and, like, socialism are. And it's really interesting because there is a lot of crossover between her views and our views that she just isn't registering or recognizing. And I would argue that a lot of her views are much more closely linked to the left than they are to conservatism. And it's very interesting that she does not seem to know that. She genuinely does not seem to be aware that that's a thing. Like, she doesn't understand what we're actually fighting for. And I will talk more about the tax thing in a moment after her next TikTok.
Oh, it's simple, because you should be responsible for your own medical costs. No, people should not be forced to pay for other people's healthcare against their will. Also, why bother getting a job so you can pay for your own medical costs? If you could get free healthcare by just not being able to afford it, i.e. not having a job. The government should not be rewarding bad and inefficient behavior, as that would incentivize more of it. Moral of the story, take some pride in personal responsibility and pay for your own stuff.
So, bad take. As we discussed earlier, she comes from a very privileged position. She went to private school. She doesn't think that public school should exist. She doesn't think school should be funded by people because it's taking money from people who don't have to pay to put their kids through school. Like, they don't have kids that are going to school, so why should they have to everyone pay for their own shit? So she doesn't really understand the perspective of people don't have money even if they have a job. Even if they work 2 jobs full time, people don't have money because of where we're at in society and because of how little people are paid and how undervalued workers are. We need public funding in order to afford those things. Those things should not cost money because people can't afford them. But her viewpoint is that, as I said, she's anti-corporation and she is anti, like, monopoly and anti-government. She thinks everything should be privately owned. And as far as I can tell, based on the 5 hours of going through a TikTok I had, she sort of seems to think that, like, everyone should be paid more or less the same, if that makes sense. Like, it's almost that thing of, like, redistributing the wealth, having people more equal within, like, businesses. Everyone does their own work, everyone earns their own money, everyone pays for their own shit. Like, nothing is shared. Everything is owned by individual people, but nothing is owned by the government. Everything is controlled by the people. Like, even, like, law enforcement and shit, like, everything is done by the people, but it is all privately owned. People pay for what they need when they need it. And that's sort of the society that she wants. In the situation and circumstances we have right now, that absolutely 100% would not fucking work because of the wealth gap. But she seems to not think there should be a wealth gap, which again is quite different to a lot of conservatives who are just like, I want to be a fucking billionaire, fuck you, work harder if you want to be one. She's anti-corporation, and she has talked about the fact that, like, workers are mistreated by fucking CEOs and shit. She's very against that. She has some really good takes. Like, her heart is in the right place. I disagree with, like, that everyone having to pay their own shit. Like, sometimes you can't work, you know what I mean? Her idea is better than the one we have in place currently, right? Like, I don't know. It seems better to redistribute the wealth and have everyone make equal amounts and pay for what they need. But, like, not everyone can work, and some people need more than others. So even in a society where everyone makes the same money, if we're all having to pay for our own shit, like, disabled people are going to then have to spend a lot more money, and they also can't work as much. Which is why public funding and having, like, things that are shared and owned by everyone is so important and so useful, because we aren't all given the same circumstances, even if we are given the same circumstances. It's equality versus equity, right? We can all be given, like, equal things, but we aren't always on the same playing field. I don't think we should ever have to pay for the bare necessities. You should not have to work to be able to live. You should not have to work to be able to have water, shelter, medical care, and food. Like, the bare necessities, absolutely, we should not have to pay for. You should not have to work in order to have those things. Sure, if you want to have more than that, if you want to buy, like, a fucking fancy car or a massive house or, like, travel or whatever, fine. Work for that. You can make extra money for that. Go off. You do you. Whatever. And I'll give you that. I'll accept that. Fine. But the idea that you have to work to have anything, I don't like that. I don't agree with that. I don't think we should be doing that at all. But core values, I think she's coming from the right place in a lot of ways. And I think after all the hours of digging that I did, it's quite sad, because how it feels to me is that she has grown up in a very conservative environment. She is surrounded by conservatives. She has been told that that is the only way, and that any good thing comes from conservatives. And she's associated, like, good and moral with conservative. And when she has formed her own sort of ideas and morals about what she thinks is right, she then associates it and thinks that it's a conservative right-wing viewpoint, and that anything that we say is obviously against that. Even when we agree, she doesn't see it as agreeing, because she doesn't really know what we're saying, because she's only surrounded by people saying that we're wrong. She feels like someone who could be educated. Like, she feels like she's on the edge of that, but it feels like she isn't willing to listen or learn. She's, like I say, against, like, education, against university, because it turns people liberal. And that to me more feels like a place of fear, where she feels as though she could be turned liberal, because I 100% think that that is possible. She seems very on the edge. Like, half the shit she says, it doesn't sound like she believes herself. But I could be entirely wrong. I could be reading this entire situation wrong. But this is a conversation I had with the person who sent me her TikTok. It's a conversation I had with Kat, and it's just it's sort of what I gather from all of these. You haven't seen very many of them. I didn't show you a ton. I've been talking for so long because, as I said, I've tried to make sense of it. This is the most sense I'm able to make out of all the information I have been given by her TikToks. I hope this made some sort of sense to you. I hope you've gathered sort of an opinion. If you want to try to figure it out a bit more, you can go to her TikTok page. I just sort of wanted to put this with some of them in sort of an order that I think makes sense, and tried to figure it out and explain it with you. Hopefully it didn't hurt your brain as much as it hurt mine, because my God. But yeah, I think I haven't shown half the TikToks I was planning on showing. Because it was funny, because, like, it started off as, like, this joke, right? Where I wanted to, like, laugh at it and, like, poke fun at it and how confusing it is, because it genuinely gave me a fucking headache. But I do empathize, you know? Like, as women, we are told shit, and we don't always feel like we can have our own opinions. And I can't imagine being brought up in a conservative environment, surrounded by conservative people all the time. Like, I've not had that. I've never been around conservative people, like, ever in my life. So I don't know what that feels like, but I can imagine how difficult it would be to be in those situations. I've been around people who have like a few more conservative or right-wing sort of problematic views, and I never questioned them until I got away from it and I started seeing other people saying different shit, and I was like, oh my god, yeah, no, that fucking makes sense. What those people were saying was kind of fucked up. And even that can be kind of difficult, you know what I mean? But like, I can't imagine what it would be like coming from a conservative family. And I know a lot of you have come from conservative families, and I'm like really fucking impressed that you've been able to like question that, especially if you're still young, living at home with your conservative family. Like, it does not feel like it would be easy to do. It feels like it would be something really hard and scary and lonely. And I'm really proud of you for venturing out and trying to learn things and understand the world a bit more. And I hope that you know that it is okay to make mistakes, especially when you are young. Because if you're surrounded by people who hold bad beliefs, when you're young, you don't think to question it so much. And as long as you grow and you learn from it and you don't do it again once you've been told it's not okay, I hope that you're able to forgive yourself, and I hope that the people around you are able to forgive you as well. That was off topic. I'll have another video about that at some point. But basically, she feels like someone who could learn, and she feels like someone who would benefit having a conversation with someone who has opposing beliefs, or someone with like the middle ground, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like she could benefit from having a conversation with a socialist and like actually having a discussion with validating one another and finding common ground. But she would have to be willing to listen, and I don't think that she is, and that is the problem. I think that she could learn, and there could be a good conversation, but she does not feel like she would be open to that, which is upsetting. The problem is, and the reason I decided to make a video on her, is because she does have an audience, right? She goes on national TV. She has a large following across like all of her social medias. And regardless of what is satirical or not, I still can't figure it the fuck out. A majority of her viewers are people who are conservative and do agree with her, even when she is seemingly being over the top dramatic and satirical. And that's a problem. And so I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to share with you. I want to get your opinions. I want to see what you think. Anyway, this was meant to be a bit more entertaining, but it ended up being a little bit more serious. So I hope that you still enjoyed it. I'm sorry for not just like laughing the whole time. It was meant to be a fun video, but here we are. Don't forget to check out the little queer Kiwi, my fluffy, cuddly twin. One purchase is one prayer for the straights, which I think is needed, you know? Yeah. So a massive thank you to my Kiwi Fruit and Kiwi Bird channel members whose names are up on the screen right now. And a huge thank you to my channel member of the day, Cherry. I love and appreciate you so, so much. You've been here since the start, so genuinely thank you from the bottom of my heart. I love you so much. If you would like to become a channel member, you can click the top link in the description or the little blue join button. You get my videos a day early, as well as 10% off my shop when I have things on my shop. And as a Kiwi Bird channel member, you sometimes get little extra pieces that don't make it into the main video. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, The Queer Kiwi, and Twitter, That Queer Kiwi. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe. Keep fighting. Mwah.